Welcome back. In this session, let's discuss about MySQL triggers. In MySQL, a trigger is a stored program invoked automatically in response to an each event such as insert, update, delete that occurs on an associated table. For example, you can define a trigger that is invoked automatically before a new row is inserted into a table, or a row updated into the table, or when you are deleting a row from the table. In general SQL, there are two types of triggers. One is a row level trigger, another one is a statement level trigger. Row level trigger is actually activated for each row that is inserted, updated or deleted. For example, if a table has 100 rows, inserted or updated or deleted, the trigger is automatically invoked 100 times for the 100 rows of affected. So statement level trigger is executed once for each transaction regardless of how many rows are inserted or updated or deleted. MySQL supports only the row level triggers. It doesn't support statement level triggers. Let's take an example. If you have an application where you are performing the insert, update, delete operations and you have a database, in the particular database you have a table, right? Let's consider this table may be an employee table. So if you want to perform some action whenever you are inserting the record into the table row, so then the insert trigger can be written on this particular table, and whenever the record is being inserted in that table, the insert trigger will be invoked and perform the necessary action that is required. Same way you can do it for update, and you can also do it for the delete. Okay, so what are the advantages with the triggers? So it's basically checks the integrity of the data. So basically you say if whenever you want to have comparison between the data, you want to check the integrity, you can use the triggers to check the integrity. And triggers helps you to handle the errors in the database layer, and triggers are alternative way. It's kind of scheduled tasks, but these scheduled tasks are not based on the time scheduled. It is based on the operations performed on particular table. So triggers are more useful when you are having the data changes in the table. So when you are, for example, let's take an example. You have a table where you have user ID password. If you want to have the password changes to be tracked into a particular database table, you can every time user create the password update, you can actually have a trigger and update the other table that is tracking how many times that user has updated the password. So some kind of auditing, the triggers are more helpful. Disadvantages, basically triggers can provide only the extended validations. So it's not all the validations that trigger can provide. So for simple validations that you want to do, you can use the not null, unique, check, foreign key constraints. So triggers can be very difficult to troubleshoot because they executed automatically in the database, which may not be visible to the client applications. So triggers are more to confine to the database to perform the actions that you configured. Sometimes triggers may also increase the overhead on the MySQL server. So normally whenever you want to create a trigger, then you will use the create trigger and pass the trigger name. And when you want to use, before inserting or after inserting, or before updating or after updating. So those kind of operations that you need to configure, and on which table you want to execute, and for each row, and begin whatever the trigger body that you want to do. For example, create trigger employee update. So after updating employee on table name employee, for each row begin trigger body. Trigger body is something like you want to insert the history, you want to capture the audit of the data that is updating into the tables. So for that specific reason, you can pass that particular SQL comments, and trigger will execute those comments and insert the data into the audit tables. With that said, so this is short intro of triggers, and we will look into the hands-on exercise for the MySQL triggers in the next session. Thank you for watching.